Tonight, Scotland, following yesterday's attempt to explain how he would pay for his spending boost, the Chancellor tells us his plans to make efficiency savings should extend north of the border. The message to Alex Salmond is clear: don't expect to see any more money coming here from the Treasury. Good evening. Media pundits and politicians have now had the best part of a day and a half to pick over the details of Alistair Darling's pre-budget report, and the finer points are still being thrown up for clarification. Tonight, we understand the Chancellor has reacted to the concerns of whisky producers by ordering changes to the detail of the policy announced yesterday in order to stop the industry being punished by his pre-budget plans. Earlier today, my colleague Glenn Campbell met him, and after a discussion about the whisky industry, he asked him about his efficiency savings plans of £5 billion a year from 2010 and what effect it would have on the Scottish Government's budget.
Well, it hasn't yet been decided how that £5 billion will be broken down. But, you know, it doesn't matter whether you're in London or you're in Edinburgh, Cardiff or Belfast. You know, all of us, when we're saying to everybody else, you know, we all have to pull our belts in, we need to do it in government. Now, in the current spending review, in other words, the money that the Scottish Executive have got just now, that already has assumed in it savings, and it's 30 billion in the UK as a whole, and you know Scotland will be achieving its share of that. I think we can go further. I think we can take another £5 billion out, and you know I defy anyone to tell me that you know governments north or south of the border can't actually be more efficient than they are at the moment.
They say it will cost about £500 million a year. Is that roughly speaking?
Well, you know, we will have to sit down with departments and you know also with the Scottish Government, in Wales and in Northern Ireland. We'll have to work out exactly how it translates. But you know, at a time like this, when people are making sacrifices, they expect those they elect and the governments that are there to serve them to actually be more efficient. And I don't think it's beyond the wit of either Alex Salmond's administration, and remember he's got double what Donald Dewar had even about 8 years ago. I don't think it's beyond his wit, or indeed the wit of us at the UK level, to be more efficient.
But it's not possible to make savings of this sort, £5 billion, £500 million in Scottish terms, without people losing their jobs, is it?
Well, of course it's possible to be efficient. Take the £5 billion. You know, at the moment, you know, government departments here, for example, buy the fuel, they buy the stuff they use from several different sources. We could be more efficient if we use the power of central government to, you know, to get better deals.
But does being more efficient mean employing fewer people?
If you take, for example, the Department of Work and Pensions, which of course is a UK function, the amount of people that department employed came down quite dramatically over the last few years, especially at a time when unemployment was low. So,
looking ahead, are you looking for further job losses to achieve these savings?
What I think is important is that you keep people on the front line, like doctors, nurses, teachers, police. That's very, very important. But can you be more efficient in the back office? Of course you can be more efficient. And no one's going to tell me, if companies are busy being more efficient, you know, individuals are asking themselves, well, where can I save money? Surely to goodness governments can do the same thing.
But that means shedding jobs.
Not necessarily. It means you might be more efficient in the way that you do things. There's not an area, you know, whether it's the BBC or the government, where you couldn't be more efficient.
But are you saying that there won't be job losses? Is that a guarantee?
If I was telling Alex Salmond how to spend his money, he'd be the first to appear in your programme to denounce me. We believe that right across the piece we can be more efficient. If he thinks he can't be more efficient, well, no doubt he'll let us know why.
The SNP government did welcome your flexibility on capital spending. Is that something that they lobbied for? Certainly the Finance Secretary said that on this programme last night.
Well, you know, we said to them in September, we sent a note to them saying, look, we're thinking of bringing forward expenditure. If you want to do it, we'll be as helpful as we can. Now, you know, whenever they're ready to come and ask us about specifics, of course we'll look at them. It's as much in my interest as it is in, the nationalist government's interest that if we can bring things forward and benefit people in Scotland by, you know, building schools earlier or building some transport projects earlier, I'm very, very happy to talk to them about it.
But have they lobbied you directly, the Treasury directly?
So far, they've not come forward with proposals. If they were to come forward with proposals, of course I'll look at them. But we actually said to them in September, nearly 3 months ago, come and tell us what you want and we'll talk to you.
Well, I'm joined now from our Westminster studio by the SNP's Treasury spokesman, Stuart Hosey, and with me here at the Labour MSP, David Whitten. Well, Stuart Hosey, you heard the Chancellor say that pretty clearly that in fact the SNP government has not approached him with any proposals to bring forward capital spending.
That's quite extraordinary. He didn't quite say that, and I know why he didn't say it, because this was raised with the Scottish Secretary on the 21st of October. On the 11th of November, it was raised again in the letter to the Chancellor on the 20th of November, and as I understand it, journalists who have checked with the Treasury in the last few days have had it confirmed the Scottish Government have in fact raised this matter with the Chancellor, but not, as Alistair Darling said, about specific projects.
Right, so what exactly did they raise then?
Well, they raised the matter of reprofiling money so they could bring forward specific projects. The Scottish Government will decide the projects it spends its money on, and I understand if the Chancellor committed yesterday, the question I asked him, he'd be happy if the Scottish Government does that. I'm sure the projects will be brought forward and the money will be reprofiled.
Right, so but were there figures mentioned, for example, by the SNP government? Did they, I mean, how much are we talking about here?
I'm not privy to particular discussions, but I know the matters were raised, which is why the Chancellor...
Yes, but you see, the other side of this, I take your point about how it's not perhaps up to the UK government to tell you specifically which capital projects you can bring forward. But on the other hand, it's entirely up to the UK government to say, look, as the Chancellor was saying there, give us a number. I mean, you know, is it 300 million or what? And we'll consider it. But if you don't give us the specifics, you can hardly expect us to give you an answer.
I think we had to get agreement on the principle first. I'm now glad that agreement's been reached. The Chancellor said yesterday he'd be delighted to see the projects brought forward, and I'm sure they will be very soon.
That's settled then.
Well, about as clear as mud, I think. I mean, I watched an interview with John Swinney on Sunday on the Politics show, and it wasn't very clear then whether he personally had made any approaches. I think maybe what Mr. Hosey maybe knows more than I do. I certainly don't know who was speaking to who.
But the substance of this, isn't it? I mean, frankly, most people don't much care who spoke to whom.
No.
What they do, the substance of the allegations that Ian Gray is making is that despite pledging to bring forward capital spending, or appearing to say that they would do that, that the SNP are not doing that, and Ian Gray is saying, here's a list of things I want brought forward.
Yeah,
right?
we've been pressing them for
So what are they
some time.
not doing that you...
Well, the only thing that they have brought forward, or they've said that they want to spend any money on, is this alleged £100 million for improved housing. Now, the truth of that is there's only £9 million committed by the SNP government for that, and of that sum, only about £3 million is actually going to be spent any time soon.
Right, so what is it you want them to be doing?
Well, I mean, the pre-budget report has now given them about £260 million extra of capital monies that they can do something with. The first thing they need to do is stop this nonsense about the Scottish Futures Trust, because it isn't going to solve anybody's problems.
Well, let's not get into that.
But it's important.